The third episode of Superman and Lois just debuted, so let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comments section. Share your take on the third episode of Superman and Lois, as well as the series as a whole. The way this is going to work, I'll give my general thoughts about the episode in the series right there at the beginning, and then I'll kind of go through some more specific plot lines throughout the rest of the video. But if you just want my quick thoughts, they will be right at the front end of this video. If you don't know, I reviewed the first and second episodes of the show. You can check that out right up here. With that said, let's go ahead and get started with my general impressions on the episode, and I am really digging this show. It is absolutely working for me. I think they've nailed the tone. They are balancing the elements very nicely. And the baby wanted to walk in and say hello. So could you guys hear her say hello? Hopefully, baby, you gonna come on camera here? Yeah, little baby wanted to say hello. Hello. Hi. She's decided to take up walking in while I'm filming as of recently. Okay, I had to lock her out of the room. She was not very happy about that, but it is past her bedtime anyway, so she's headed to bed. Anyway, I think they are just doing a really nice job of creating a family that you actually care about, with conflict, but without excessive melodrama, where you feel their pain, understand their frustrations, their reactions, the situations, the processing of being in a new location while discovering your dad has powers. And at the same time, you have the drama and the frustration that comes with that, but they always balance it out. It doesn't get out of control. And even with the teenage politics that's very heavy on the show, thus far, we're only 3 episodes in, but they're managing to keep it in check really nicely. Along the same lines, they're finding ways to have enough Superman action without coming up with a silly gimmick to try and give him stuff to do. And so, just in general, the show is absolutely nailing it for me. 3 episodes in, and like I was assuming maybe we'd have a dip with the second, third episode. 3 episodes in, there hasn't been the bad episode. There hasn't been the weak episode. I'm playing through my head, like if I were to rank them, I don't know which one I would say is the best. I don't know. I'm still processing through all of that, because I think they just really have done a good job of having each episode have its own vibe, its own strengths. And I wouldn't even say weaknesses. There's not like the thing about each one that's like, well, it was good, but any complaints I've had thus far, just kind of like small concerns, just the smallest of things. And that's a really good sign. The 3 episodes in, and it feels like they really nailed it right out of the gate, which is so refreshing, because I've been pretty frustrated with a lot of Arrowverse for several years now, and this just feels like them maturing, them listening to some feedback, realizing that they've borrowing too much from their previous plot lines, and realizing we can't keep heading down that path. Let's do something new and different. And it is really working for me. And like with this episode, very heavy on the family drama, the high school stuff. And I kept thinking like, all right, should I be frustrated that, Superman's not a bigger focus, that, he had pretty limited action in this episode? But at the end of the day, I was like, no, the episode worked. It made sense. And we don't need to like just shoehorn in silly stuff. I cared enough about these characters, this family, and what they're going through, that it's okay that, we don't need Superman action to cover up for weak characters that you don't care about. No, I cared about the characters. And so, yeah, I am really digging this show right now, and the path that they are on. Kind of from there, kind of just walking through the episode in kind of the specific things. What specifically did I like about it? So it kicks off with the family painting their new house, and they're arguing about colors, and then it ends up turning into like a family paint fight. And it just like, I don't know the word that comes to mind, like wholesome. That you're watching a show where a family that actually likes each other. They've got issues. They've got stuff they're trying to figure out right now. But they actually like each other and spending time together. And they have that every episode. We have the conflict, we have the disagreements, but we also have them enjoying each other's company. We have a little scenario on the other side of the world where Superman has to go save the day. So he flies to the other side of the world and saves this bridge in China. And there's this great little moment where as Superman's saving the bridge, like he's kind of like waving and cracking jokes with the guy below that he just saved. And I love that when he's in Superman mode, it's kind of classic Superman. I'm actually, for the most part, a defender of Batman v Superman. I thoroughly enjoy Man of Steel. But part of what the issue with Batman v Superman is that it's just such a deconstruction of Superman that even though he's in full swing, it's like in critical mode. You know, the first movie, he's okay, I get he's angsty, he's figuring things out, but then he becomes Superman, and then the sequel is the news running like, should we have a Superman? And it shows him saving people, and he's just like frowning, and he's unhappy about it. And as soon as he saves one person, there's a news report, why didn't he save two people? And I love that this version, and I believe all the way back to when I think I did a review of when Tyler first showed up on Supergirl of the episode. I just loved that it's a traditional take that Superman saves this guy in a boat and they're waving and the guy's smiling. Both of them are smiling. And it's just that's what Superman, that hopefulness, a joyfulness to saving people that I very much appreciated. And then kind of cut back to the high school side of things and the aftermath of the first episode where Jordan kisses a girl, leads to the football team not liking him very much. And so they go to school and Jordan's getting bullied just a little bit. And Clark, who we just established has super hearing, decides that he better step in to make sure that nothing bad happens. Which his sons quickly realize means that, wait, has our dad been spying on us forever? So they get pretty mad at him. Which I mentioned in my previous reviews, not liking like teenage melodrama where it feels like all the emotions are just cranked up too high. And that's not what this was at all. Like if you discovered that your dad was listening to every conversation you ever had, your dad has violated your privacy. At a certain point in time, like if you do something to make it so there's a reason your dad doesn't trust you and he's listening in, that's one thing. But if your dad says he trusts you and then he's still spying on you while you're at school, he's gone too far. And in the case, this is Superman, that you have powers and you want it. It's the continuing conflict of being a parent is that the journey of parenthood is that you're letting go. When your child is born, you just hold them, and they literally have zero freedom because any freedom for a baby, they can't do anything with it. But as they get older and they have more abilities, can understand the world around them, they have more freedom to do more things, and you have to let them go into that freedom. And there's a very interesting scenario of if you're Superman and you can hear everything, you want to protect your kids, but you have more information than is useful. Because you can hear them at times when no other parent could hear their child, and therefore you step in too often. Therefore, the child never learns how to appropriately respond. And it's a really interesting scenario that is unique to Superman and this unique show that they've created. Why am I like, wow, this show's really cool? Because character that I love, Superman, and they put him in such a normal parenting situation of you've got teenagers, they're hormonal, they're dealing with teenage politics. Oh, and they just discovered their dad's Superman. Oh, and we just moved them to a different city. And so much of that is so normal, so human, such stuff that every parent has to work with. If you're wondering what I'm doing, my autofocus for some reason has been acting funky today, so I'm making sure it's focused in on my face. But it's so human, but it's Superman. And I love seeing a Superman that's being portrayed in such a traditional way, dealing with real problems. And they're not setting him up as deadbeat dad. They're setting him up as guy that is trying to do the best. And if you think you can help your child, you want to. And then you realize, oh, I have to let go. I have to let my kids be free. Anyway, I'm talking too long on parenthood. If you wanted a parenting lesson, now you know my views on parenthood. And so then, I'll kind of, I guess I'll probably talk through this whole one. So there's a whole subplot about Lois Lane and this story that she's been researching through the beginning of this. I'm sure it's going to be one of the main plot lines of the entire season. And some lady shows up saying, hey, I read your story. And there's this whole back and forth the whole episode between Lois and her new boss about whether Lois should run it and the realities of having to work for a small paper and that you have to do local news stories and stuff. So in the middle of one of these fights, lady walks in and says, hey, I believe you. My son was killed. Here's the story on it. And so Lois, and you see someone from the distance take their picture while this is happening. So then they start trying to research this a little bit, and news lady isn't convinced the story is true. Lois is, I've got to research this. This is what I do. And news lady's like, we're in a small town. Please be realistic. And then Lois's car blows up, which indicates something is afoot. And then at the end of the episode, Lois goes to follow up with the lady. Someone is there. This big, gigantic guy. Lois stabs the guy in the ear with a pen, which was fun to see. And he's like unfazed by it. So she calls for Superman to show up. Superman starts punching the guy, and the guy's just absorbing the punches, which is a bad sign. And so eventually he's able to take him out. The lady from earlier is in really bad shape. Superman flies the lady to the hospital, and news lady, reporter ladies apologizes to Lois for not believing her. And then Lois apologizes. They realize there really is a story here. And someone really, really, really wants them to silence the story, so much so that Morgan Edge has sent superpowered guy to go and attack them. And then someone with heat vision takes that guy out as the final scene of the episode. So it's just a nice little subplot. It's not super intricate, but it's just continuing to develop this mystery intrigue of what's going on in the city, the conspiracy theory side to it, with Lois doing the investigating and Superman is the muscle for her when he needs to be. Just a nice little touch, not too overplayed. I mean, of course, there's always a side to it if it's a small town and there's like murders going on and super powered people. In reality, everyone would be like, wait, what is going on? Something's afoot here, but okay, fair enough. You know, it's of course a TV show about an alien flying. So, but it's just the right amount that every member of the family has a plot line that makes sense in light of the scenario that they've created. None of it feels forced. And then really our main plot line about the episode is Jordan decides to join the football team. Dad's decided not to listen. So Jordan wants to kind of get back at these guys that have been picking on his brother and him. So he's like, I've got powers, at least a little bit. So he joins the football team. And Jonathan at first is like, what? Don't do this. And he says, brother's going to embarrass him. Then his brother starts tackling guys, which he's kind of like, oh, that was kind of fun to see. At the same time, like, wait, isn't this my thing? And then the coach is like, hey, Jonathan, you need to run laps because you didn't tell me about your brother. And confronts Jordan about it. Like, hey, you need to tell Dad. He's going to find out. And Jordan's pretty belligerent. It's just like, I'm not doing anything wrong. And I voiced some issues with Jordan's big emotional behaviors last week, and a bunch of you responded to that in the comments, that stop and think about how he was established with kind of his, I don't remember the name of the condition, but he has certain conditions, and just some teenagers behave like that. So I heard you, and I'm listening, and I try to interpret this episode in light of what all of you said. And so I kind of take it in that context. And I've been worried that at some point in time, Jonathan's the idea is that he's bottling things up. Because maybe I thought where they were headed with it, he's bottling up some frustrations that his brother's now the one that's a little bit more in the spotlight, has powers. But that hasn't really been the way that it's played out. And I kind of appreciated that. And so running parallel to their conflicts, I guess, is it Sara, Lana Lang's daughter, quits cheerleading, has been going to counseling, which has been causing family tension. And this all leads to the twins and her in a diner. Her mom walks up to confront her, and she just decides to go off on her mom right in front of them, like, our family's falling apart and you don't listen to me. It's just kind of fun. I think that Jonathan, this guy is... jumping ahead on myself, I really like the way that they're writing him, handling him, and the way the actor, I don't know his name, the performance is working. Though I did find out on Twitter, he actually lives like 10 miles down the road that way, in the next town over from where I live. He's from here, right here in Central Texas. It was pretty cool. Just saw him on Twitter and saw his city that he's from. I was like, wait, that is 10 miles that way, which is pretty wild. And, but he's just making these reactions to it that are just totally normal. And my wife, as we're watching, was like, he doesn't look anything like the guy playing Clark Kent, but he's making the exact same facial expressions as the guy. It's like, just works really nicely on the show. So, and eventually by the end of the episode, mom and have an honest conversation about why the daughter did what she did, kind of resolved it a little bit. And then eventually through the conversations, Lana talks to Clark. Clark finds out he's on the football team. So then he confronts the son. I guess another important detail, Jordan at the second practice, the guy that he kissed the boyfriend of the girl that he kissed, Sara, he kissed, wants to tackle him. Jordan takes him out and he apologizes to him like, hey man, I messed up. That wasn't cool. Shakes his hand and is actually kind of like connecting with people. And the coach is like, thinks he's, godsend. He loves this guy. So Jordan's starting to fit in a little bit. And then Clark sees he's playing. Sons didn't ask, he just went for it. So Clark is not very happy. Big, gigantic fight that night at home where Jordan's like, wait, like, so you can tell little lies, but I can't tell little lies. Have a lot of back and forth. And like I said, I'm listening to you guys on teenage behavior, his specific condition. I hope that they find a way to have him have a certain level of self-awareness to counter some of this. Because I think the frustration I have is that certainly in my case, I can relate to a father more at this phase of my life. And so you see Clark Kent, Superman, who's trying to save the world, trying to do everything in his power to lead his family, guide his family, be proactive in his family. And then when you have his son, and he's like, I'll trust you to go to school. And then the son immediately joins the football team. You're like, okay, to get revenge kind of on people. You go, you're not acting the most trustworthy. And then you're saying your dad is the one that's the bad guy. Like, okay, father's side to me is going to relate to Superman more and be like, your dad is Clark Kent. He's actually a great guy. What are you doing, man? And so he sends him to his room because he says all these horrible things like, I wish you weren't here anymore. As teenagers do sometimes and say horrible things to their parents. So I hope that they can have that self-awareness, because when all you have is Clark Kent apologizing to his son, but not the son realizing he's being bad, that's frustrating. Anyway, Jonathan sees that Jordan gets a text from someone about the plays and everything. And he's like, oh, this is like the best thing that's happened to my brother. I need to talk my dad into letting play. So he goes and confronts Clark, be like, man, you got to let him play. And like I said earlier, I keep being worried that they're just writing Jonathan to be just holding things in and it's going to snap at some point in time. And they keep not doing that. That he has these moments where he's frustrated, but that he comes out as like this brother that's incredibly supportive and is just very aware of what's going on with his brother and wants to help him out whenever he can. It is the word I've used before, wholesome. Just like I really appreciate that they're establishing a family that actually cares about each other. They have their faults, they have their conflict, but his brother goes to bat for him to get him to play because he's realizing football might be my thing, but it'll help him so much. He's fitting in, he's making friends. So of course I can let this go. And it like just such a good-hearted thing to do, such a brotherly thing to do. And so then Clark goes to him and says, you can play, have a nice father-son moment. And then he's like, one thing, I need to be the water boy. And so he becomes the assistant coach and walks out carrying it and stuff, just looking very much like the awkward dad that you would assume a Clark Kent would be. So I'm sure I missed some things in there, but my card's about to fill up. So I've only got about one more minute before this ends, but I just think the scenarios feel right. There's just enough angst, but it doesn't linger on it. It resolves it. They have bursts, but then they apologize. And then they've come up with the right number of plot lines and reasons to have Superman action. Everyone has stuff to do. And I just enjoy these characters and the way they relate to each other. That they're in a weird, tough spot and they're trying to figure it out together. That's cool. I enjoy that. So hopefully they can maintain this, because thus far, I think what they've been doing with the show, it's given me hope for the Arrowverse. This is what I needed. So I'm thoroughly enjoying it. All 3 episodes, I've been all on board. Let me know what you thought down below in the comment section, and I'll see you again next week. Assuming you don't watch the other videos that I put out on this channel and the other one before that. Talk to you later.